Hello everyone. This video is on the Knewton Alta assignment, section 2.5, part 1, titled Solve Quadratic Equations by Factoring. And in this video, I'm going to be taking you through a preview of the Knewton Alta assignment, as you can see here. Please understand that the questions I see in this video may or may not be the same questions that you see when you work on the assignment yourself. Right, but I'm hoping that, watching me do these here, that the objectives are the same, so the questions should be similar. And watching me do them hopefully helps you in some way when you do them yourself. Right. So here's your assignment page. You won't see the words preview of, you'll just see the title. Got your mastery bar telling you how far along you've gotten. You can see the objectives. Looks like there are 2 objectives in this particular assignment. And under the current objective, you see a question related to that objective. And at the bottom of every question, you should see a feedback button. You can send feedback to Knewton if you see anything wrong with their questions, a typo here and there or whatever. You will not see the instructor cheat button, right? This is for instructors only. But you will see a more instruction button, which is very useful at times. If you're struggling with an objective or a particular question, you can always try clicking on more instruction. It'll take you to a page with some reading to do or some videos to watch, and then it'll provide you with questions related to that instruction. And if you get those questions right, it'll progress you through the assignment, just like if you were to get this first question right. So, if you want, every time you get a new question, click on more instruction and work on the problems there with the instruction available. Nothing wrong with that. Okay. So this first question is on the objective, solve quadratic equations by factoring, where the leading coefficient is greater than 1. Alright. So I'm hoping that you recall how to factor quadratic polynomials. That's obviously key here. They're talking about factoring. It's in the title. So I'm going to write this problem out and then go over the procedure you're going to follow, or at least I would follow, to solve a quadratic equation by factoring. So this first example, first question here, we have, solve 9x squared minus 26 times x minus 3. When is this equal to 0? Right? We're trying to figure out what value or values you can replace x with to make this true. We get 0 equals 0. Alright, so solving by factoring. I'll put some steps up over here. So the first step is to get basically everything on one side, right, your polynomial on one side and 0 on the other. And being that these will be quadratic polynomials, it should look like this, ax squared plus bx plus c, where a, b, and c are real numbers, equals 0 on the other side. So that is done here already for us. We have, a quadratic polynomial on one side and 0 on the other. Then factor the polynomial completely. And again, the assumption here is that you know how to factor polynomials. Now, you can factor this with the lead coefficient not 1, right? The lead coefficient's 9. Factor it by, you can do guess and check, trial and error. I like doing that AC grouping method, right? Factoring by grouping, where I take the lead coefficient times the constant, right? 9 times negative 3 is negative 27. And then you think of a pair of factors. Think of a pair of factors of negative 27 that have a sum of the linear coefficient, negative 26, and that would be negative 27 and positive 1. Alright, these multiply to be negative 27, and they add to be negative 26. And then you rewrite the middle term. So you have 9x squared, and then this middle term is rewritten as negative 27x plus 1x. Right? That's the same thing as negative 26x, right? But using the numbers negative 27 and 1. And then you have the constant term minus 3. Right, you still have the equal 0 over here. And then you factor by grouping. Right? I group the first two terms, big plus sign, group the second two terms. You factor each group separately, right? Pulling out the greatest common factor. The greatest common factor of this first group would be 9x. And then I pull a 9x out from these two terms, you'd be left with x minus 3. Plus, now the greatest common factor of these next two terms is just 1. If you want to write the number 1, you can. You don't have to. Times 1 doesn't mean anything. Times x minus 3. And then you look at the thing as a whole, right? There are two products here. Both those products have x minus 3 in common. Factor that out. Right, so the x minus 3 comes out, and if x minus 3 is removed, the remaining factor is 9x plus 1. Alright, and you always have this equals 0 on the other time. But there we go, I'm done with step 2. I have taken this quadratic polynomial and factored it, and if you want to check that, multiply x minus 3 and 9x plus 1, and you should get 9x squared minus 26x minus 3 back. Alright, then we're going to apply something called the zero product property. I'll explain what that is. Right, apply the zero product property. Right, and it's the reason we have the number 0 on one side. Now I'm going to be abbreviating the zero product property as ZPP from here on out. Now here's what the zero product property states. If you have a product, say A times B, and that product is equal to 0, right? They have a 0 product. Then one of the factors has to be 0. Either the first factor A is 0, or the second factor B is 0, or both. Right? But that's exactly what I have here on the left side. Right? I have a product, x minus 3 times 9x plus 1. I have a product that's equal to 0. Right? And the only way a product is equal to 0 is if one of the factors is 0. So by the zero product property, either this first factor is 0 or this second factor is 0. So you kind of take your original equation and break it up into a couple of smaller equations. Linear equations, much easier to solve. Then I say solve and check, as you should with any solutions to an equation. So x minus 3 equals 0, I would add 3. And 9x plus 1 equals 0, I would subtract 1, then divide by 9. You get x equals negative 1/9. And let's check these. Check them back in the original equation. So how about x equals 3? Right, so I'm going to go back to the original equation and replace x with 3. I have 9 times 3 squared minus 26 times 3, and then minus 3. 3 squared is 9, this is 81. 3 times 26 is 60 plus 18, that's 78, so that's minus 78 minus 3. That is totally equal to 0. You got 0 equals 0. This works. Alright, so I'm going to circle that. Alright, go back here and say, hey, this works in the original equation. This is a solution. And how about the other one? How about negative 1/9? Alright, so same deal. Going back to the original equation. And now I'm replacing x with negative 1/9. I'm hoping you can work with fractions. 9 times, negative 1/9 squared minus 26 times negative 1/9 minus 3, and see if I get 0. Right, I want 0 equals 0. Alright, so negative 1/9 squared would be 1/81st, but 9 goes in 9 times, so it ends up being positive 1/9 for this first term. Then plus 26/9 for the second term. And then minus, and then, you need a common denominator when you're adding or subtracting. So 3 is actually the same thing as 27 divided by 9, right? Now they all have a common denominator, and that's equal to 0. Right, you keep the denominator, and then 1 plus 26 is 27 minus 27 is 0/9 or 0. So this also works, right? So my solutions are positive 3 and negative 1/9. And that's what I'm going to enter. And they tell us in the instructions, please read the instructions carefully. List answers separated by a comma. Right, separated by a comma. Now they have x equals already. I don't need to type that. I'm just typing the numbers. 3, comma, and then the other solution was negative 1/9. And it shouldn't matter what order you put them in. Right, they're both solutions. Submit and see, hey, alright. And it'll tell you if you got it right or wrong. And either way, it's going to provide you with the answer explanation. Please read through the answer explanations, whether you got it right or wrong. If you got it correct, just glance through them and see that you got it right for the right reasons, that you didn't just get lucky and you understand why you got it right. Or, maybe they do it a different way that you like better and you can use for future problems related to this objective. Now, definitely go over the answer explanations if you got something wrong. Read through it, try to figure out why you were wrong, and hopefully you can fix your mistakes in the future. Alright, so moving on. Now the next question is on the other objective where, it's basically the same thing. Right, solve quadratic equations by factoring, but this is the nicer one where the lead coefficient is 1, instead of 9 like it was in the last example. Alright, so I'll write this problem out here and we'll solve for y. Okay. Alright, so this problem is this equation, y squared minus 10y plus 24 equals 0. Right, and it's already set up the way I want it. Right, if I'm going to be solving by factoring, got everything on one side, on the left here, and 0 on the other, right? And I need 0 on the other side in order to be able to apply that 0 product property, right? If the number on the other side is not 0, subtract it, get rid of it, make it 0. Now again, I'm hoping you recall how to factor quadratic polynomials, especially with when the lead coefficient was 1. It's very simple. All you had to do was find factors of the constant term. So what were factors of 24 that had a sum of the linear coefficient, negative 10? That'd be negative 6 and negative 4. Alright, negative 6 times negative 4 is positive 24. Negative 6 plus negative 4 is negative 10. And when the lead coefficient was 1, the factors were very simply, the variable with one of those numbers, y minus 6 times, and then the variable again with the other number. And you can double check this by multiplying, y minus 6 times y minus 4 should give you back y squared minus 10y plus 24. All right, and now I have what I want. I have a product equal to 0. And the only way a product is equal to 0 is if one of the factors is 0. And so this is by the 0 product property. Either this first factor equals 0, or the second factor equals 0, or both. But you know, they both can't be 0 here. Equals 0. And then you solve both of these, and we'll check our solutions. Now I'm going to check the solutions just out loud. I'll speak them. So here add 6, you get y equals 6. Or here adding 4 to both sides, y equals 4. And then don't forget to check them. All right, go back to the original equation. Always check your solutions back in the way it originally was presented to you, please. Now if y were 6, 6 squared is 36, 10 times 6 is 60, 36 minus 60 is negative 24 plus 24 is 0. This works. Great. And then 4, right? 4 squared is 16, 10 times 4 is 40, 16 minus 40 is negative 24 plus 24 is 0 again. Hooray. So both of these work, 6 and 4, and that's what I'll enter. Alright, and again they're telling us, list the answers separated by a comma. They even give you a little example here. So y equals 6, comma 4, or 4, comma 6, right? It doesn't matter what order you put them in as long as they're valid solutions to the equation. Great. Alright, moving on. Alright, so still in this objective where the lead coefficient is going to be 1, so hopefully the factoring is easy. Solve the equation. Alright, so let's flip this over. Let's write this equation out. A squared plus 2a minus 35 equals 0. And once again, it's already starting the way I want it to start. Everything on one side, and 0 on the other. And again, you need to have 0 on the other side in order to apply the 0 product property. 0's in the name. Alright, I'm hoping you see this factors to a plus 7 times a minus 5, right? 7 and negative 5 are, they multiply to be negative 35 and add to be 2. And the lead coefficient was 1, so it's just easily factored. And then, I have a product equal to 0. So by that 0 product property, either, the first factor, a plus 7 is 0, or the next factor, a minus 5 is 0. And I solve and check, right? So either a is negative 7, or a could be 5, or both. Both might work. Let's see, negative 7. Squared is 49. 2 times negative 7 is negative 14. 49 minus 14 minus 35 would be 0. So that works. And when a is 5, you got 25 plus 10 is 35. Minus 35 would be 0. That works too. So 5 and negative 7, or negative 7 and positive 5. Now this time, they just say enter list answers separated by a comma. Alright, so now notice there's no a equals, and you don't have to type that. They're just telling you what numbers would replace a. What numbers are the solutions? So negative 7, comma, and 5. Or 5, comma, negative 7. Should be the same. Great. Alright, next. Alright, now we're back to when the lead coefficient's not 1. And this time is just select all that apply, right? So there's not just one, maybe more than one of these work. Now you could go through and plug them all in and see which ones work, but let's do the factoring. Alright, so let's keep this page up and write it here. So we got 8x squared minus 7x minus 18 equals 0. And once again, right, this isn't always going to happen, but once again, they already have it the way that I want to begin. Everything on one side, 0 on the other. Now, because the lead coefficient's not 1 on this quadratic, I'm going to do that A times C grouping method that I do for these, right? So what's 8 times negative 18, right? The lead coefficient times the constant. Well, 8 times 18, that's 80 plus 64, that's 144. So this is negative 144. And then I'm looking for a pair of factors of negative 144, so one's got to be negative, one's got to be positive, that add up to negative 7. And again, if I'm hoping this doesn't, you can use a calculator to help you out, but me, I already know this is negative 16 and positive 9. Alright, negative 16 times 9 is negative 144, and negative 16 plus 9 is negative 7. So now I'm going to rewrite that middle term. We have 8x squared, and then instead of minus 7x, I'm going to write it with these two numbers, minus 16x, and then plus 9x. That's the same thing as minus 7x, right? And then you have minus 18, right? And you still have the equals 0 over here. Then you do the grouping, first group plus second half, right? The second two terms. Yeah, factor each half completely. Both of these have a common factor of 8x, and then you'd have times the quantity x minus 2, plus, and then these two have a common factor of 9 times the quantity x minus 2, and then notice that both of these have the quantity x minus 2 in common. So x minus 2 times, and if you remove x minus 2, pull that out, you have 8x plus 9 as the other factor. Okay. Now I have what I want to be to be able to use the zero product property. I have a product equal to 0. Alright, so by the zero product property, either the first factor equals 0 or the next factor. And if there were 3 factors, 4 factors, 5 factors, I would set each one of them equal to 0. Right. Or the other factor, 8x plus 9. 0. And then we solve here, x equals positive 2. For this one, x equals negative 9/8. And then don't forget to check them. Now I'm going to tell you right now, if you're doing these right, which I know I am, if you're doing these correctly, since there are no denominators with variables and no square roots or any special symbols like that, the solutions you find should work. Again, that's if you know for certain that you're doing all the steps right. But I would still, if I were you, being new to this stuff, I would still check your solutions, plug those in. But 2 and negative 9/8 are our solutions. So negative 9/8 works, and down here positive 2, and select all that apply, not just one of them. Great. And again, please read through your answer explanations. Alright, next. Alright, still in that objective. So once again, I'll write this out, and we'll solve it by factoring. Alright, so here we have 2x squared minus 13x plus 6 equals 0. It's already everything on one side, 0 on the other. Hooray. Do that AC grouping method, right? 2 times 6 is 12. The factors of 12 that add up to negative 13 would be negative 12 and negative 1. So I'm taking 2x squared and then rewriting the middle term as negative 12x plus negative 1x. Right? I like having the plus in the middle. You've seen that in previous videos as well. And then you got the plus 6. Put the groups up. Here I'm factoring out 2x. 2x times x minus 6. And then in here, the greatest common factor is 1, but the lead coefficient in this group is negative. So I'm going to factor out the opposite of that, factor out negative 1. And then you'll have times x minus 6, and then you'll see, both these terms have x minus 6 in common. And if I remove x minus 6, pull that out, you have 2x plus negative 1 or 2x minus 1 left over. Alright, so we have x minus 6 times 2x minus 1 equals 0. Got a product equal to 0, right? So by that 0 product property, either x minus 6 equals 0 or 2x minus 1 equals 0. Solving each of these, we get x equals positive 6 or x equals positive 1/2, and you can check both of these, they both should work. Alright, and don't forget to check them, that's why I'm putting the little check marks there. Alright, well then back on the assignment though, right, they want us to again list the answers, list the solutions separated by a comma, 6, comma, 1/2. Great. Okay. Next. Alright, looks like we're going to finish off this objective here. Alright, so once again I'll write this out. We'll do that grouping method, factor it. 2x squared minus 3x minus 5 equals 0. Everything's real nice for us in the beginning with all these. We don't have to do any moving around of terms. Alright, so again that AC method, since the lead coefficient is not 1, 2 times negative 5 is negative 10. And those are actually the factors we need. Alright, those multiply to be negative 10 and they add up to be negative 3. So I got 2x squared, got minus 5x plus 2x. Alright, that makes the negative 3x. Then minus 5 equals 0. Got the groups. Alright. First group have a common factor of x times 2x minus 5. Plus the second group, the greatest common factor is 1. Now you can write 1 if you want, and then times the quantity 2x minus 5. And then both these terms have a factor of 2x minus 5 in common, so that comes out. And when that comes out, the remaining factor would be, x plus 1. And now I have a product equal to 0. So by that 0 product property, either 2x minus 5 equals 0, or the other factor, x plus 1 equals 0. And then we solve these separately and check them. So x is either positive 5/2 or negative 1, and they should work. Again, don't forget to check them on your own. I'll leave that to you. Again, type in the solution separated by commas. 5/2, comma, negative 1. Or the other way around, negative 1, comma, 5/2. Wonderful. Alright, so that objective's done. So the only questions left, I should have a lead coefficient of 1. So it makes it even easier. Alright, and once again, it's already set up where, everything's on one side, zeros on the other. I'm just going to do this one out loud. X squared minus 3x minus 4. This would factor to x minus 4 times x plus 1. And then you set each factor equal to 0. X minus 4 is 0 when x is positive 4. So that's a solution. And then x plus 1 is equal to 0 when x is negative 1. So that's also a solution. Again, you can check those, 4 and negative 1. And submit. Great. Hard work. And I should have just one more of these. Again, I've done 2 of these on paper earlier, so I'm just going to say this one out loud again. Oh, here they have separate slots for you to enter the solutions with the commas already there, so be careful, right? Pay attention to how they want you to enter answers. T squared minus 6t minus 16, this would factor to t minus 8 times t plus 2. Now t minus 8 would be 0 when t is positive 8. So positive 8 is one solution, I put that in the 1 box. And then t plus 2 would be 0 when t is negative 2. So 8 and negative 2 should be the solutions here, and don't forget to check them, make sure that they make the equation true. Wonderful. And again, please don't forget to read through the answer explanations. And that should be it for the this preview version of this assignment. As I said at the top of the video, please understand that the questions I saw here may not be the same questions you see when you're going through the assignment yourself. But all the objectives are the same, so the questions should be similar, and the way I work on them would be the same. So I'm hoping that watching me go through these 8 examples here help you in some way when you're asked to do all this and work on the assignment on your own. And thank you very much for watching.